ball, RJ.
Welcome back to the Sports Mixer on the Sports Animal. I'm Dave Sittler. Appreciate all the guests so far. Now we're going to have our usual contributor every Tuesday and Thursday, R.J. Young, OU Insider, OUinsider.com. R.J., thanks so much for joining us. I wanted to ask you, I don't think I've ever, in the times we've talked about OU football and that, talked to you at all about LaRon Stokes. What an interesting story he is. Do you think he's got a chance to contribute this year?
Well, if you believe what Calvin Thibodeau and Lincoln Riley say, is yeah, absolutely. Lincoln talked about LaRon being one of the guys who has picked up what they're doing quickest of the newcomers, which is a really good sign. And it's going to be interesting to see where he fits in. I think he's going to slot in behind Kenneth Mann on that strong side defensive end spot, that 5 technique. But he certainly has a size, and he was certainly waiting on an OU offer because his route to Oklahoma was fascinating. And by most accounts, including Mike Brooks, who is best OU historian out there, he's the first scholarship player to also be homeschooled coming out of high school. He played it for Noah, right? And took the route to NEO because he couldn't get qualified in time. Not because, other reasons that guys can't get qualified. And then he got an offer from Oregon in October, and it looked like they had a great time. He and his mother took a visit. They had a great time there. And he got his offer from OU, Lincoln Riley, without a defensive coordinator in December, and he jumped on it. Dude coming out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. I really do believe that this guy could be OU's version of Tim Tebow. Why Tim Tebow? Tim Tebow was a great quarterback, Heisman Trophy winner, of course, but also homeschooled, right? But the difference is Tim Tebow and I think Jason Taylor also played in public school programs, and LaRon Stokes did not. So this is going to be very interesting, and he could set a precedent going forward for how homeschool kids are recruited.
Well, RJ, you mentioned there that Oregon offered him, and Oregon just got a commitment from Slusher out of Union. Who is what's the
Broken Arrow? Broken Arrow. Don't mess that up.
Yeah, Broken Arrow. Sorry, Broken Arrow. What's the connection to that Oregon staff that they're coming into Oklahoma and doing this? Do you know?
Yeah, they see players. That's the job.
I didn't know if one of their assistants has got some connections here. Somebody's having success with it.
I don't know that it's necessarily that you have connections. You have connections everywhere if you're a coach at that level. But with the internet, and this is one of the things I still try to get across in recruiting, it's not like it used to be in that you need to know somebody and somebody needs to tell you about something. Huddle is a real system for watching film. So you go through there, you watch film on a guy you like that fits what you're trying to do, and you can go get that kid because we have Twitter, because we have Facebook, because we have email. It's not really as outside of the box as it used to be because scouring the country. We're talking about dudes going to Europe now to look for talent because we're getting so saturated with who's doing what where. I think it was Michigan and Notre Dame sent coaches over to Germany to see what prospects were playing football for the first time to bring them back over here and do something. And I think you're going to see more of that. At Oklahoma, you can go north of the border and get Neville Gallimore, get Josiah St. John. And we can keep going with that, but I don't really think it's that big a deal anymore, especially since Oklahoma's schedule for high school football really lends itself to being recruited because they're really some of the only kids in the entire country who are still playing high school ball in May when nobody else is. So they send coaches down to Oklahoma to see what they got. And you come out with kids like Miles Slusher, come out with kids like Eli Williams at TCU. We can keep going.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Europe. When I was in the Army, I was stationed in Germany, and they got a lot of American high schools over there because of the servicemen. And I saw some good players there. It's interesting that they're going to finally go over that way, and then the game's growing over there. But they've also, in OU's case, like you say, they're spreading around. They're going to go start, it looks like, hit Arizona hard again, right?
Well, we'll see. I don't necessarily think that Chuba Purdy is who you're talking about, but they got Noah Nelson out of that, right? So I guess you could say that they're already doing it, and they've done it last year with Spencer Rattler, and Kelee Ringo is out of Arizona. He's a big get for somebody. He's probably the best available player left who's uncommitted. You're also talking about Damian Sellers playing outside linebacker, and of course Jacobe Covington out of Saguaro in Arizona. So you could say, I guess, I'll back up off of that. You could say they're hitting Arizona pretty hard, but why not at this point? I'm really still interested to see what's going to happen at quarterback and this ongoing debate that's basically I started with a poll on the Twitters asking folks, does Oklahoma need a 2020 quarterback? And 51% of people who took the poll, about 2,000 votes, said no. And I found that fascinating because, as a general rule, you take a quarterback every year. And Lincoln doesn't have one now, and that's why we're talking about it. So maybe you go to Arizona and you take a look at Chuba Purdy, who's the brother of Brock Purdy, who's a really good prospect, but maybe you don't. Maybe they're going to offer somebody that we're not even thinking about.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I saw that on your Twitter account, and I agree with you. I think you've got to take a quarterback every year.
Without fail, whether he's JUCO or not, I don't care. Because, people are talking about Spencer Rattler as can't-miss prospect, and I would tend to agree, but so was Rhett Bomar. And you saw how that worked. Also, kids get injured. That's football. Football means you're going to get hurt. Like if you play the sport for any length of time, especially if you play a position where people can literally come at your ribs anytime you got the football, right? And you're not necessarily protected. So I get that maybe you can't get the guy that you might want to get in the 2020 class because who wants to follow Spencer Rattler, right? Bryce Young is committed to USC. It was out there that Lincoln wanted him. He's been committed to USC for nearly a year now. But you need a body back there. You need a warm body that can throw the ball. And, you would love to have 4 scholarships on the depth, or four scholarship quarterbacks if you can get them. But you want 3 scholarship quarterbacks on the depth chart and maybe a preferred walk-on. So you need to get somebody going in here. And we're slow playing because we got 6 months between now and December. But something needs to get on and popping because a lot of things are about to start happening this summer.
Yeah, well, Clemson showed that, right? They've got a guy who may win the Heisman as a sophomore and be there as a junior in Trevor Lawrence. Didn't they just sign the best quarterback out there?
Yeah, well, they just won a national championship. They also signed the top 2 defensive players in this class too. Clemson's doing what national championship teams should do, which is rule recruiting. Like you shouldn't be beat out by Georgia or Alabama or anybody else after winning a national title. But, also they signed a guy for the 2020 class, not for the 2019 class, because that guy knows that Trevor Lawrence is going to be gone. The 2019 quarterback, we'll see what happens with him, but you still have him. And that's the point, right? You had a guy like Chase Bryce last year who could come in and help you when Trevor Lawrence was on the sideline, right? As Kelly Bryant decided, I don't want to play at Clemson anymore, because those things happen. And the transfer portal goes both ways, and kids can do what they want to do. So I'm also really interested to see how some college football coaches are getting in a tizzy because kids are deciding, I want to decommit, or I want to transfer. As if, college football coaches don't move and shake more than anybody else in the sport.
Yep. All right. Hey, RJ, it's always a trip being on with you, but appreciate it. Have a good holiday weekend. And RJ will be on, of course, Sunday with his show, Fight Me. Don't miss that one. And we'll be talking to you next week, RJ.
All right, Dave, I appreciate you.
All right, thank you, RJ Young, OU Insider, OUinsider.com. What do we remember?